Alright, here we are with the 1955 Oliver 50, the old baler, and although it is a little rusty, it still does the job. So we're ready for the third video here in the Making Hay series, and today we're going to actually make the hay. We're going to bale it into square bales. This baler has several adjustments on it we're going to go through, but as with anything that we do with this equipment, we start with grease and making sure that everything is updated and oiled and filled with whatever it needs. We've got new twine in the twine box over there. I'll show you that here in a minute. All the knotters are greased up and cleaned out. I blew everything out with air, and we are ready to make some hay bales. So we've already raked the hay, and today I always flip these windrows over. So I run the rake around here the day that I bale, usually at least a few hours before I run the baler. And so I just run that roll rake, that John Deere roll rake. If you haven't seen that video I posted, I'll put a link up in the corner there. Just run the end of that rake by these windrows, and it flips that window right over. So it gets any of the dew and moisture that maybe collected overnight on the windrow. It gets that in the sun, lets that dry out, and so we've got a nice fully dried windrow of hay to collect. So the hay that we have is a little bit of an alfalfa, mostly alfalfa and grass mix here. It's a real nice green third cutting, and I think this is going to do really well. It's nice and dry. You can hear it's crispy, and the stems are breaking very easily, and so I know that this is ready to bale. So I'll take you through the baler here and all the functions and adjustments, the little that there are. The pickup here, pickup tines, they do have an adjustment. This whole piece here moves up and down, and you just latch the chain on the side there that holds the level of the pickup. Generally, if you're towing it around on the road or something like that, you want to lift this up off the ground, and when you're ready to collect hay, you want to lower it down so the tines just touch the ground as they go around. They're going around this way. They're picking that hay up and feeding it right in there. The auger is going to push the hay into the fingers. Those fingers right there are going to stuff that hay into the box here, and then that ram, you can see the end of it, that ram moves back and forth, and it shoves that hay into making a bale. There's really no adjustments to be made here. Most of the adjustments are going to be in the knotters. If you need to adjust those, get your manual for this thing, because there's a timing that has to be done. Luckily, these have done pretty well for me, and so I have not touched them. But the needles, you can see underneath here, those round shaped needles, they have an eye where the twine, you can see the two pieces of twine go up through that eye, and they feed into the knotters up there. That twine comes out of the twine box here, and inside we just have 2 rolls of twine. Now, I always, and I recommend anybody doing hay, I don't care how big or small of an operation you are, I always recommend that you use a sisal twine. This twine is biodegradable, meaning that if you throw this into a pasture, it's going to get all over the place. It's on our barn floor, it's everywhere. It will break down. It ends up in our compost a lot of times, in our compost pile. So sometimes we'll end up, getting it in there, and we don't want to have a bunch of plastic twine. It's just awful to have that stuff. So here's a great example. Look at all this plastic twine in here. Blue and red. George has been in here digging things up for us and finding all this. But this was where the previous owners had horses in here, and they would throw probably bales of hay over, onto the ground in here, whatever, for the animals to eat. And the twine just is going to be here forever. That plastic twine will never biodegrade. It's all over throughout the dirt in here. Man, it's a pain if you try to till this or try to do anything with this ground now. It's always going to have that twine in there. It's always going to be a disaster. So coming out the back chute here, this is where the bales are going to come out. Obviously, I have an adjustment here. This adjustment here is for the pack of the bale or the weight of the bale. Now what I have found is this needs to be adjusted just right, depending on the hay, the dampness of the hay. Is it super dry? You're going to end up having to tighten that a little bit so you get a tighter bale. If it's a little bit on the more wet side, then you need to loosen it a little bit. But this is the weight of the bale. So as the hay is being packed in there, it puts resistance on it. and holds that down so that as that hay is coming through there, it packs it into a certain weight. If it's too loose, it'll actually pull these knots out here too quick and they won't tie. If it's too tight, it won't pull them off the bill hooks and they'll get tangled up or stuck. And so it's got to be just right. This right here adjustment is for the length of the bale. So this little spline, as the hay gets packed in there, this counts how long the bale is going to be, and you can adjust this here up or down to make your bales longer or shorter. I have not ever touched that since I got this baler, and it's been just fine. So we are ready to get our hay off the ground, make some bales. Now I am going to be just dropping these bales. So there's a couple options. Of course, you can pull a trailer or a hay wagon behind the baler, have somebody taking the bales off the baler as they come out and stacking them on a wagon. I've done that before. Today it's just me and my wonderful helper, but she's just a little too young to run the tractor or lift the bales of hay yet. So maybe in a few years she can help me with that. But today we're just going to drop the bales and then we're going to go back and pick them up afterwards. I've actually found this to be a little bit smoother. I can run that baler, keep running it once I get it dialed in, and we'll make bales, just drop them on the field, just run the whole field, and then we'll just come back and collect them. So, but we are ready to get started. Generally the first few bales are going to break as we get things dialed in and adjusted. We get that old hay bale out of there. There's one bale in here that's been in here for about a month. We get that out of there, and then we're going to be starting into the fresh stuff, and we should just be cranking along. So let's hope for the best and get her fired up. To get this adjusted so that those fingers right there are rotating every 60 seconds, so about 1 cycle per second or a little bit faster. So we're a little bit slow right now, and once we get going in third gear, we're going to be, it'll slow down a little bit too. So we're going to crank it up a little bit faster here, and we'll get going. Man, what an awesome thing to be able to produce, you know, 75% of the food that we need for our animals here right from our property. Those hay fields have been just such an important part of what we want to do here. And man, every time I get that baler out, I just love making those bales of hay. So these bales were heavy. I probably should have loosened the baler up a little bit. As I got going, I noticed that a lot of the windrows were still a little bit green, probably greener than they should have been. I probably should have let it dry out for another day in some of the thicker windrows, especially around the corner field. But I just didn't have the time. The next day I was going to be out of town. Sometimes that's how it goes. You know, baling hay is very tricky. It's very weather dependent. You know, when rain's coming in, you got to rush things a little bit. If you have perfect conditions and you can let things, you know, go just right, and you know, that's great. But that doesn't always happen, especially up here in Michigan. We have very finicky weather. So, man, the hay is great. It's green, it's fresh, it's got a lot of alfalfa in it, and these animals absolutely love it. So what I do whenever I get real heavy bales like that, a real green hay, that goes to the front of my stack. So I'm going to make sure that gets aired out. If it's really green, I may even bust the bales open and just, you know, start feeding that to the animals right away. We don't want any of that to go to waste. My daughter's bunnies love that greener hay, and the animals just tear it up. So, and these goats just about never stop eating it. I've put a bale out here almost every 2 days, and they just tear through this stuff. So it's all going to good use no matter what. So I had originally expected over 75 bales from that field, but I only got about 35, I think maybe 33, 35 bales. And so, you know, those were super heavy bales though. There's probably twice as much hay in those bales as our normal bales of hay. They were very compressed. So probably could have got more bales if I had loosened them up a little bit, but that's okay. All good hay, and animals are gonna love it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this hay making series from start to finish, making bales of hay. Hopefully you learned something if you're just getting into it. I am by no means a seasoned expert. I've only been doing this for a few years, but what I have learned along the way I thought I would share with you guys. And we've been able to make some real great bales of hay every year for sale and for animals that we've had very good luck with. So hit thumbs up on the video. As always, just reach down and tap that thumbs up button. Makes a huge difference for us here. And subscribe if you want to follow along. If this is your first time visiting the SSL Family Dad channel, you've maybe watched the series or just picked up on this video, I'd love to have you subscribe. Check out some of our other videos on our channel. We've got all kinds of stuff, anything related to DIY, doing it yourself, saving yourself some money, homesteading, farming, gardening, all those kinds of things. So love to have you tag along. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.